For years, I believed skipping breakfast was sabotaging my metabolism. Then I discovered the science that changed everything about how I approach my morning meal. What I learned might surprise you too. Have you ever rushed out the door without breakfast, only to hear your mother's voice echoing in your head that you've just committed the ultimate health sin? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, she'd say. For decades, this mantra has been drilled into our collective consciousness. But is it actually true? As someone who's experimented with different eating patterns for years, I've discovered that the answer is far more nuanced than the conventional wisdom suggests. I remember the morning ritual from my childhood vividly. Waking up to the smell of toast and eggs, being told that a hearty breakfast would fuel my brain for school and keep me from overeating later. Then in my college years, I found myself regularly skipping breakfast, grabbing just coffee before rushing to morning lectures. The guilt was real. I genuinely believed I was damaging my health, yet my busy schedule made consistent morning meals nearly impossible. It wasn't until I began researching nutrition more deeply that I realized much of what we accept as gospel about breakfast might be built on shaky scientific ground. The relationship between breakfast habits and health outcomes is complex, and what works for one person might not work for another. Let me take you on my journey through the myths and facts about breakfast, drawing from both scientific research and personal experience. Whether you're a dedicated breakfast enthusiast or a habitual skipper, understanding the truth about morning eating habits could transform your approach to health. The metabolism myth, perhaps the most pervasive breakfast myth, is that skipping your morning meal slows your metabolism. I believed this wholeheartedly for years, forcing down food when I wasn't hungry because I feared entering starvation mode. The truth? Your metabolic rate doesn't take a dramatic nosedive just because you missed breakfast. Our bodies are remarkably adaptable, and metabolism is governed by complex factors, including total caloric intake, body composition, and activity levels, not simply by when you consume your first meal. Research published in the British Medical Journal found no evidence that breakfast eaters had better metabolisms or lost more weight than breakfast skippers. In fact, some studies suggest that intermittent fasting patterns, which often involve delaying the first meal of the day, may actually provide metabolic benefits for certain individuals. I've experienced this firsthand. When I switched eating my first meal around noon, I noticed no decrease in energy levels or weight gain. If anything, I felt lighter and more focused during my morning work sessions. The hunger and overeating connection. Skip breakfast and you'll overeat later. This warning haunted me whenever I considered postponing my morning meal. The theory seems logical. Extreme hunger leads to poor food choices and excessive portions later in the day. While this may be true for some people, it's not a universal rule. When I analyzed my own eating patterns, I discovered that my total daily caloric intake was often lower on days when I skipped breakfast. Without forcing myself to eat in the morning when I wasn't naturally hungry, I became more attuned to my body's actual hunger signals. However, I should note that this varies significantly between individuals. Some people genuinely feel ravenous without breakfast and subsequently make less mindful food choices. The key is self-awareness, understanding your own hunger patterns rather than following prescriptive rules. Cognitive performance and concentration. One morning during a crucial work presentation, I felt my concentration waning. Having skipped breakfast that day, I immediately blamed my empty stomach. But was that the real culprit? The research on breakfast and cognitive performance is mixed. Some studies do show benefits for children in school settings, particularly those who might otherwise be undernourished. However, for well-nourished adults, the evidence for breakfast enhancing mental performance is less compelling. What I've learned through experimenting with my own routine is that the type of breakfast matters more than simply having breakfast. A sugary meal can lead to energy crashes, while a balanced breakfast with protein and healthy fats provides more sustained focus. And for some people like me, the clarity that comes with fasting in the morning actually enhances productivity. Blood sugar regulation. Managing blood sugar levels is crucial for energy and long-term health. I initially worried that skipping breakfast would send my blood sugar on a roller coaster, but the science tells a more interesting story. Our bodies have sophisticated mechanisms for maintaining blood glucose levels, even during periods without food. In fact, some research indicates that intermittent fasting patterns can improve insulin sensitivity and blood sugar control for certain individuals. I found that when I did eat breakfast, the content of that meal affected my energy levels far more than the timing. A high-carb breakfast often left me feeling sluggish by mid-morning, while a protein-rich meal provided more sustained energy, whether I ate it at 7 a.m. or noon. The weight management question. Perhaps you've heard that breakfast eaters maintain healthier weights. This correlation appeared in observational studies, but correlation doesn't prove causation. More rigorous research, including randomized control trials, has found that breakfast consumption is not the weight management silver bullet it was once thought to be. Some people maintain healthy weights while eating breakfast. Others do so while practicing forms of intermittent fasting that involves skipping morning meals. In my own experience, finding an eating pattern that feels natural and sustainable has been far more important for weight management than adhering to rigid breakfast rules. When I stopped forcing myself to eat on someone else's schedule, I found it easier to maintain a healthy relationship with food. Listening to your body's wisdom. The most valuable lesson I've learned in my nutrition journey is that our bodies often know what they need better than general guidelines do. Some mornings I wake up genuinely hungry, and on those days, I eat a nourishing breakfast. Other days, I don't feel hungry until later, and I've learned to honor that without guilt. This personalized approach is gaining scientific support. Chronobiology research suggests that our optimal eating windows may be influenced by individual factors, including genetics, lifestyle, activity patterns, and even gut microbiome composition. Rather than asking whether skipping breakfast is good or bad, we might better ask, what eating pattern helps you feel your best, supports your health goals, and fits realistically into your life? Cultural context and breakfast traditions. It's worth noting that the emphasis on breakfast is not universal. Different cultures have varied approaches to morning eating. In some Mediterranean countries, breakfast is often light, perhaps just coffee and a small pastry. In parts of Asia, breakfast might look similar to other meals of the day rather than consisting of dedicated breakfast foods. These diverse cultural practices remind us that there's no single correct way to approach the first meal of the day. The modern American breakfast, heavily promoted by cereal companies in the early 20th century, is not the only model for healthy eating. Finding your personal breakfast truth. After years of breakfast-related guilt and confusion, I've arrived at a place of greater ease. Some days I enjoy a morning meal. Other days I don't eat until afternoon. Both approaches can be part of a healthy lifestyle. If you're questioning your own breakfast habits, consider these practical tips that have helped me. Experiment mindfully with different patterns and observe how you feel. Pay attention to hunger signals rather than the clock. When you do eat breakfast, focus on quality protein, healthy fats, and fiber. Be wary of high-sugar breakfast foods that can lead to energy crashes. Remember that hydration upon waking is important regardless of when you eat. The breakfast question ultimately highlights a broader truth about nutrition. One-size-fits-all recommendations rarely serve everyone well. Our bodies have different needs, our schedules vary, and our relationships with food are deeply personal. The freedom of informed choice. Perhaps the most liberating aspect of understanding the science behind breakfast is the freedom it provides. When we move beyond rigid rules and moralistic food judgments, we can make choices based on our individual needs rather than external shoulds. I no longer feel guilty when I skip breakfast, nor do I force myself to delay eating when I wake up hungry. This balanced approach has improved not just my physical health, but my psychological relationship with food as well. Whether you're a dedicated breakfast enthusiast or prefer to eat later in the day, what matters most is finding an approach that supports your energy, satisfaction, and overall well-being. The best breakfast choice is the one that works for you, not the one that worked for your neighbor, favorite celebrity, or even your nutritionist. So the next time someone tells you that skipping breakfast is nutritional sabotage, or that you must eat within an hour of waking, remember that nutrition science offers a more nuanced view. Your morning meal deserves to be freed from myths and approached with personalized wisdom. What are your experiences with breakfast? Has skipping or eating breakfast made a difference in how you feel? Share your morning meal insights in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more evidence-based nutrition insights that go beyond the conventional wisdom.